No, Commander Thule, you do not want human battleships unleashed in this war. Captain Jerry Robinson slammed his fist on the table as he pleaded with the Romulan military leader at this clandestine rendezvous deep in the neutral zone. Human warships are more destructive than you can possibly imagine. It would be chaos, uncontrolled devastation across the quadrant. Thule leaned forward, his angular features taut with desperation. He fixed Robinson with an intense stare. Captain, you must understand the direness of our situation. The Klingons are slaughtering us. Ship after ship, colony after colony, our once mighty Romulan star empire is weeks away from total collapse. Thule tapped a control on the sleek black conference table, bringing up holographic displays of classified intel. Robinson's eyes widened as he took in the full scale of the heavily armed Klingon war machine. Thousands of battle cruisers, destroyers, and dreadnoughts. Their fleet vastly outmatched the Romulans in sheer numbers and firepower. This is the largest armada the Klingons have ever assembled, Thule said grimly. Casualty projections are catastrophic. They will subjugate us, reduce us to slaves, and once the Romulan Empire falls, how long before they turn their sights on your precious Terran Republic? An icy chill ran down Robinson's spine at the implications, an existential threat to humanity itself. But as much as he wanted to help, he had to be sure it was the right course of action. I don't understand, Thule. You Romulans are centuries ahead of the Klingons technologically. How are they winning? Thule grimaced as if the truth pained him. Klingons are fearless warriors. They attack head-on and never retreat, even against insurmountable odds. They would rather die than surrender. Our long-range weapons and cloaking devices are useless in close combat. The Romulan commander placed both palms on the table, fixing Robinson with a penetrating gaze. Captain, only your people have a reputation wild enough to match Klingon ferocity in battle, and the technological prowess to stand against them. You may be the quadrant's only hope. And there it was, the crux of the matter laid bare, but Thule still had reservations. I've heard whispers about experimental Terran vessels, warships more powerful than anything we've seen. Some say too powerful, capable of destabilizing the quadrant if deployed without restraint. Robinson felt the weight of the future pressing down on him. The Romulans were desperate, but was giving them access to humanity's most devastating weapons really the answer? Could he keep human involvement limited enough to help without opening Pandora's box? I need to consult with Terran High Command, Robinson finally said. But Thule, even if we do this, even if we ride in like the cavalry, it has to be on our terms. We're talking about the balance of power in the galaxy here. Hell, the survival of entire species. Thule only nodded, a tense silence stretching between them. Both knew the other was right. Both knew the stakes, and both knew that the fate of empires, the fate of worlds, now hung on the actions of one human captain, on the choices Jerry Robinson would make in the coming days. The wrong move could ignite a firestorm that consumed them all. The journey back to Earth felt agonizingly long for Jerry. He kept replaying the meeting with Thule in his head, the Romulan's desperate plea for help echoing in his mind. The weight of the decision pressed down on him like a physical force, threatening to crush him under its immensity. As soon as his ship docked at Terran High Command, Jerry was whisked away to a secure briefing room deep within the facility. The assembled admirals, their faces etched with concern, listened intently as Jerry relayed the classified intelligence provided by Thule. He held nothing back, painting a vivid picture of the Romulans' dire situation and the looming Klingon threat. The Klingons are on the verge of overwhelming the Romulans completely, Jerry said, his voice grave. Thule showed me the full extent of their armada. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. The admirals exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the situation sinking in. If the Romulans fall, the Klingons will control a significant portion of the quadrant, Admiral Nora Vance said, her brow furrowed. It would drastically alter the balance of power. Not to mention the risk to our own security, Admiral Liam Hawkins added. An empowered Klingon empire would pose a direct threat to the Terran Republic. The room erupted into a heated debate, with voices rising and falling as the admirals grappled with the enormity of the decision before them. Some argued for immediate intervention, insisting that the full might of the human fleet be brought to bear against the Klingons. Others urged caution, warning of the risks of entangling humanity in an interstellar war. Through the chaos, Jerry's voice cut like a beacon. "I propose a middle ground," he said, drawing the attention of the room. "We provide limited support to the Romulans, tactical advisors, advanced technology, precision strikes. But we hold back the bulk of our battleships, at least for now. It's a way to help without overcommitting." The admirals fell silent, considering Jerry's proposal. It was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between action and restraint. Just as the debate seemed poised to resume, the door to the briefing room burst open. A young intelligence officer, her face flushed with urgency, strode in clutching a data pad. "Admirals, Captain Robinson," she said breathlessly. "We've just received critical intelligence from our spies in Klingon space." The room stilled, every eye fixed on the officer. "The Klingons have captured a damaged Romulan warship," she continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. "They're attempting to reverse engineer its cloaking technology. If they succeed—" She trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. The Klingons with cloaking capabilities would be a nightmare scenario, an enemy that could strike without warning and vanish without a trace. Admiral Vance broke the silence, her voice steel. "This changes everything. We cannot allow the Klingons to acquire that technology." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, the path forward suddenly crystallizing. "Captain Robinson," Admiral Hawkins said, turning to Jerry, "you'll lead a covert mission to infiltrate the Klingon shipyard. Your objective is twofold: destroy the captured Romulan vessel and eliminate any trace of the cloaking technology. We cannot let it fall into Klingon hands." Jerry nodded, the weight of the mission settling on his shoulders. "I'll assemble a team immediately, sir. We'll get it done." As the briefing adjourned and the admirals dispersed, Jerry couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Klingons would not take kindly to the loss of the cloaking technology, and their retribution would be swift and brutal. But for now, he had a job to do. The fate of the quadrant, and perhaps humanity itself, hung in the balance. Jerry steeled himself, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The game was afoot, and the stakes had never been higher. Jerry Robinson stepped off the Terran diplomatic shuttle onto Romulan soil, his heart pounding. The air felt thick with tension as he led his team of advisors and strategists towards the imposing structure of the Romulan High Command. Commander Thule stood at the entrance, his face a mask of stoic control. As Jerry approached, he detected a flicker of desperation in the Romulan's eyes. "Captain Robinson," Thule said, inclining his head, "welcome to Romulus." The negotiations began immediately. Jerry sat across from Thule in a dimly lit conference room, the air heavy with unspoken urgency. "You've seen our reports," Thule said, his voice tight. "The Klingons advance relentlessly. We need your ships, your troops. Without them, the Romulan Star Empire will fall." Jerry leaned forward, choosing his words carefully. "Commander, we understand the gravity of your situation, but deploying our battleships risks escalating this conflict beyond anyone's control." Thule's face darkened. "Then what do you offer, Captain? Empty platitudes while my people die." "Not at all," Jerry replied. "We're prepared to provide advanced weapons, shielding technology, and tactical training. Our goal is to bolster your defenses without tipping the scales too far." Hours passed in heated debate. Jerry could see the conflict in Thule's eyes, pride warring with desperation. Finally, the Romulan commander nodded curtly. "Very well," he said. "We accept your terms, for now." Over the following weeks, Jerry watched as human advisors integrated into Romulan fleets. Warships were retrofitted with devastating new weaponry. Crews drilled relentlessly in unorthodox human tactics. The results were immediate and stunning. Reports flooded in of Romulan victories, Klingon forces thrown back in disarray. Jerry allowed himself a moment of hope. Perhaps this limited intervention would be enough. But as he stood on the bridge of a Romulan flagship, watching the aftermath of their latest triumph, Thule approached him with fire in his eyes. "You see what we can accomplish together," the Romulan said. "Imagine what we could do with your full might behind us. We could crush the Klingons once and for all." Jerry shook his head. "Commander, I understand your eagerness, but—" Thule cut him off, his voice rising. "But what? You hold back while my people die. Is this how humans show courage?" "This isn't about courage," Jerry shot back. "It's about preventing a conflagration that could consume the entire quadrant. We're your allies, but we won't be the spark that ignites that fire." Their argument was interrupted by a frantic communication officer. "Commander, urgent transmission from our scout ships." Thule rushed to the console, his face paling as he read the report. He turned to Jerry, all traces of anger replaced by naked fear. "A massive Klingon armada," he said. "They're converging on one of our refugee outposts. Thousands of civilians." Jerry's mind raced. He knew their retrofitted ships weren't ready for a battle of this scale. But those civilians... "How quickly can you assemble a strike force?" he asked. Thule barked orders, but his expression remained grim. "Not quickly enough, and even then we'd be outnumbered and outgunned." Jerry took a deep breath, knowing he was about to cross a line. "Then it's time we evened the odds a bit. I'm calling in some friends." Within hours, a small battle group of human warships dropped out of warp alongside the Romulan fleet. As they approached the outpost, the scale of the Klingon force became clear. Hundreds of ships jam-packed with weaponry. "All ships, this is Captain Robinson," Jerry broadcast. "Our mission is to protect that outpost at all costs. Engage the enemy." The battle erupted in a fury of weapons fire. Human ships unleashed salvos of advanced torpedoes, ripping through Klingon shields. Romulan vessels, newly upgraded, darted between enemy formations with deadly precision. For hours, the space above the outpost blazed with combat. Slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. The Klingon vanguard faltered, then broke. Within moments, their entire fleet was in full retreat. In the aftermath, Jerry surveyed the damage. The victory had come at a heavy cost, dozens of ships lost on both sides. But the outpost, and its thousands of civilians, had been saved. Thule approached him on the bridge, his expression unreadable. Thank you, Captain. We owe you a great debt." Jerry nodded, but before he could respond, Thule continued, his voice hardening. "But this proves what I've been saying. With your full might behind us, we could end this war decisively. Why do you still hold back?" Jerry sighed, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. "Commander, I understand your position, but unleashing our full arsenal could have consequences none of us can predict. I need to consult with my superiors before we take any further steps." Thule's eyes narrowed, but he nodded reluctantly. As Jerry turned to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true test of this fragile alliance was yet to come. Jerry's shuttle touched down on Earth with a gentle thud. The moment he stepped onto the tarmac, he was whisked away to Terran High Command. The tension in the air was palpable as he entered the briefing room, packed with grim-faced admirals. "Captain Robinson, report," Admiral Vance barked, her unwavering focus fixed on Jerry. For the next hour, Jerry laid out the situation in excruciating detail. He recounted Thule's desperate pleas, the Romulan losses, and the looming Klingon threat. The room erupted into chaos as soon as he finished. "We should deploy the entire fleet," Admiral Hawkins smacked his head on the table. "Crush the Klingons before they gain any more ground." "And risk igniting a war that could consume the entire quadrant?" Admiral Chen shot back. "We'd be fools to commit our full forces." The debate raged on, voices rising and falling like storm-tossed waves. Jerry stood silent, watching the admirals argue, when suddenly the door burst open. A young intelligence officer rushed in, face flushed. "Admirals, we've intercepted critical Klingon transmissions," she said breathlessly, handing over a data pad. "They've allied with a race called the Breen. The Breen are supplying them with energy-dampening weapons that can neutralize our shields. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Jerry felt a chill run down his spine. Without their advanced shielding, even their most powerful ships would be vulnerable. "This changes everything," Admiral Vance murmured, her face ashen. Jerry stepped forward, his mind racing. "Admirals, committing our full fleet now would be suicide, but I have a plan." All eyes turned to him as he outlined his audacious two-pronged strategy. When he finished, the room was silent for a long moment. "It's risky," Admiral Chen said slowly, "but it might be our only option." With the plan approved, Jerry wasted no time. He assembled a crack team of operatives, each one an expert in their field. Within days, they were aboard a stealth ship, slipping undetected into Breen space. The Breen homeworld loomed before them, a fortress of ice and metal. Using cutting-edge holographic tech, they infiltrated the planet's defenses. Jerry led the team through winding corridors, hearts pounding as they neared the main weapons facility. They burst into the control room, phasers at the ready, and froze. Instead of Breen, they found humans. Gaunt, tired-looking scientists stared back at them in shock. Who are you?" one of them asked, voice trembling. "We're here to rescue you," Jerry said, lowering his weapon. "But first, we need to shut this place down." As his team secured the facility, Jerry learned the scientist's story. Captured years ago, forced to work for the Breen. His blood boiled at the thought. "We don't have much time," Jerry said, glancing at the facility's defenses. "Can you redirect those disruptor arrays?" The lead scientist nodded grimly. "We can turn them against the Breen capital. It'll breach their shields, cause planet-wide system failures." "Do it," Jerry ordered. Alarms blared as the scientists worked feverishly. Outside, they heard the sounds of battle as Jerry's team held off Breen reinforcements. "It's done," the scientist shouted. Jerry watched in awe as beams of energy lanced out from the facility, striking the distant Breen capital. The planet's shields flickered and died. "Time to go," Jerry said, ushering the scientists towards their escape route. As they fled, the chaos erupting around them, Jerry received word of the coordinated strikes against Klingon targets. Shipyards reduced to scrap, supply lines severed. The Klingon war machine ground to a halt. Days later, as his ship approached Earth, Jerry received the news. The Klingons were suing for peace. But Thul's demands were harsh. Vast swaths of territory, crippling reparations. Jerry frowned as he read the report. The Klingons would never accept such terms, and if they discovered humanity's role in the attacks, he shuddered to think of the consequences. As the peace talks began, Jerry couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the calm before an even greater storm. The fate of entire civilizations hung in the balance, and one wrong move could plunge them all into the abyss. Jerry paced the corridors of Terran High Command, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The weight of recent events pressed down on him, each victory now feeling hollow in the face of mounting tensions. A young ensign rushed up, face flushed. "Captain Robinson, urgent transmission from Klingon space." Jerry's stomach dropped as he read the message. The Klingons had discovered the truth about the Breen attack. Their fury radiated through every word of their ultimatum to the Romulans. "Get me Commander Thul," Jerry barked, rushing to the nearest communications terminal. Thuli's face appeared, his normally stoic features twisted with rage. "You've seen the Klingon demands?" "Yes," Jerry said. "We need to de-escalate, find a way to—" "De-escalate?" Thul spat the word. "No, we will crush them. I'm contacting your Admiralty directly. It's time to unleash your full arsenal." The screen went dark before Jerry could respond. He smacked his head against the console, mind racing. This was spiraling out of control. Hours later, Jerry stood before the assembled admirals, the air thick with tension. "Gentlemen, we're on the brink," Admiral Chen said, her voice tight. "Thul demands our full intervention. If we commit—" "We secure dominance in the quadrant," Admiral Hawkins interrupted. "Strike now, while the Klingons are reeling." Jerry opened his mouth to argue, but alarms blared throughout the facility. A security officer burst in, face pale. "Romulan strike teams," he gasped. "They've seized control of Starbase 11 and the Utopia Planitia shipyards. They're threatening to destroy them unless we deploy the fleet against the Klingons." The room erupted in chaos. Jerry's mind reeled, unable to process this betrayal. As the Admiral shouted orders, a new alarm sounded. "Massive Klingon fleet incoming," someone yelled. "They're targeting our shipyards." Jerry rushed to the nearest viewport, watching in horror as the sky lit up with weapons fire. Terran ships, caught unprepared, exploded in silent balls of flame. The shipyards, humanity's pride, crumbled under the relentless Klingon assault. "All hands, battle stations!" Admiral Vance's voice boomed over the comms. "This is not a drill. We are at war." Jerry sprinted for the nearest shuttle, barking orders into his communicator. As he lifted off, the full scope of the devastation became clear. Earth's orbital defenses were in shambles, Klingon ships swarming like angry insects. His shuttle touched down in the ruins of San Francisco. Fires raged unchecked, the air thick with smoke and the screams of the wounded. Jerry led a ragtag group of survivors, fighting street by street to repel Klingon boarding parties. A disruptor blast caught Jerry in the chest, sending him sprawling. As he lay there, blood pooling beneath him, he watched Terran and Klingon ships tear each other apart in the skies above. The war he had tried so hard to prevent now consumed everything. His vision dimmed, the world growing hazy. A lieutenant knelt beside him, shouting something about the remnants of the human fleet regrouping for a final stand. Jerry tried to respond, to offer some final words of strategy or comfort, but no sound came. As darkness closed in, Jerry's gaze fixed on the battle-scarred heavens. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers, each one representing countless lives snuffed out in an instant. He had sought to protect humanity, to maintain a delicate balance. Now, that balance lay shattered, and with it, perhaps the future of civilization itself.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.